A large portion of the world is multilingual, meaning they know 2 or more languages. So how do multilingual speakers control which language they use? Although there is not a definite answer, there are 2 theories for how language is selected.
The first theory is called the language selectivity theory, or the light switch theory, and it predicts that multilinguals won't experience interference from one language when using the other. For example, if a person knows both English and Spanish, they could carry on a conversation entirely in Spanish without having English disrupted.
The second theory is called language non-selectivity, or the whack-a-mole theory. This theory predicts that multilinguals will experience interference when speaking. Interference is when someone is speaking in one language and unintentionally says a word or a phrase in a different language from which they are speaking. For example, an English and Spanish bilingual, while trying to say "I'm at my house," may say instead "I'm at mi casa."
So, with this information, take a few seconds to think about which of these theories is more supported by psychological research. If you thought whack-a-mole theory, you were correct. There are numerous pieces of evidence supporting the whack-a-mole theory, and in this video we will be going over 2 of them.
The first piece of evidence we will talk about is the Stroop task, which was carried out with Spanish-English bilinguals. They were shown the names of colors, but the name of the color and the color of the ink did not always match. They were asked to report the color of the ink. When the color name did not correspond to the color of the ink, the participants took longer to express the color of the ink. For example, when shown the word verde, which means green in Spanish, in green ink and in purple ink, they took longer to say the ink color when the word was presented in purple as opposed to green. Since the study was conducted in English, this shows that their Spanish knowledge was not turned off, concluding interference, supporting the whack-a-mole theory.
The next study used interlingual homophones. The participants in this study were Russian-English bilinguals and were presented with a whiteboard that had a marker in one location and a stamp in another. They were told to fixate on the middle of the board. In Russian, the word for stamp is marka, which sounds similar to the word marker in English. So, when the participants were told to pick up the marka in Russian and move it to another location, the interlingual participants would look at the marker for a longer time than the monolingual Russian speakers. This shows that English was interfering with Russian for the multilingual speakers, supporting the whack-a-mole theory.
As you can see, there is a large amount of evidence supporting the whack-a-mole theory, while there is no psychological evidence supporting the light switch theory. However, this doesn't mean that interference always gets in the way when multilinguals talk. This is because multilinguals have great cognitive control and are able to manage multiple mental dictionaries.